Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 2 of Dad's Talk Shit podcast. I am John Richter and we have Ronell Rashid as well. And today we are going to just talk about we're going to talk some shit.
We're going to talk some good shit too.
Yeah.
Without further ado, let's go ahead and kick this off, man. Let's talk about, since we're both obviously dads here, let's talk about a big topic, which can also be controversial. Let's talk about discipline and how it plays a factor in the upbringing of a kid. For instance, I know everybody has different methods and preferences for how they choose on disciplining their kid. Some people think that physical discipline often results in negative outcomes. And some people think that verbal discipline is a much more productive and non-toxic form of discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And me personally, I think it all falls on the behavior of the child. Some kids correct behavior better through physical discipline. Some kids correct behavior through verbal discipline. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think, different kids require different things. But it's still, that's still a question that we struggle with. Originally, I thought that I was going to be a lot harder until like a lot more hard on my, before I had a son, like whether or not I was going to be a son or a daughter. I was thinking like, because, my experiences, I only know from what my experiences were. And my dad was pretty strict. So I always thought that that's just how you discipline a child. I always just thought that that's how it is. So I always would talk to Alejandra, my wife, about like, how I would discipline them. And we always like disagreed on things. And I was always thinking like, well, that's just what you do. And so I finally had Noah, my son, and think like I couldn't imagine I couldn't imagine like hitting him or anything like that, or screaming at him. Like I don't know how I would handle it. Now I'm to the point where I used to think like, yeah, of course you have to hit your kids.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm more like you don't have to hit your kids. There's other ways. But I also have seen what happens when you have no discipline, and I've seen friends grow up with pretty much be able to do whatever they want, and with really no consequences, and they pretty much ran the house. So yeah, I don't know. It's still a hard topic, and luckily he's young to the point where like anything he does, it's like, oh, it's just because he's a baby, like he doesn't like misbehave. He's a baby, so it's like I'm not there yet.
What age, not because you are, but what age, like, how some people have like age ranges where they say, oh, once they get to like the 1.5, 2 year mark, you can start popping them on the leg or popping them on the hand, or you can start correcting bad habits that you see them start to form. So what age range do you think would be appropriate to start disciplining?
I mean, I even think discipline as soon as possible, maybe not like hitting, but like discipline, I feel like even at 1, like pretty much when their personality starts to come about, like I'm pretty sure even at like 1 and 2 years old, they can start to misbehave, like have fits and temper tantrums. So it's like if he's a 1-year-old and he has a temper tantrum, I'm not going to like hit him, but I need to somehow make him understand that that's not how you act.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how you act. You can't always have your way. This is not how you act when you can't have something. They're going to have tantrums. So, I mean, at that point, I feel like, I don't know, maybe scolding them, but not yelling at them, but scolding at them, acting disappointed in them, maybe putting them in a timeout. If you're talking about like how old until I start spanking them, I don't know, maybe like, I don't know, Maybe
Cool
like
down.
three, maybe like
Uh,
3. I don't know.
three.
Maybe like 3. It's still something that I really am scared because I'm not looking forward to that because I don't know what I'm gonna do. But maybe like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe like 3 is like when you might start spanking them. Not like hard, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah, just little pops, just little taps. That's all you need.
yeah, enough for them to know they've done something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe 3, but I mean, pretty much as soon as I start noticing that they do things like having tantrums and stuff, you're gonna have to take care of it. So, I mean, pretty much as soon as I start noticing that they're actually like he's actually misbehaving.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like for me, I think luckily, um, with my girls, I haven't had to do much physical discipline. Um, there were like, I mean, more so with Avery. Avery's more again like the verbal kid. Like I never really had to discipline her physically. It was always just the tone of my voice would instill enough. I don't want to necessarily say fear, but fear. It instilled enough fear in her to know that okay, I'm serious. I did something wrong. Let me stop
Mhm.
what I'm doing and correct myself before Dad gets upset or disappointed. Um, so with Avery, it was just more so verbally me expressing my disappointment or my frustration with her behavior, whatever it might have been at that time. I never really physically had to like pop her leg or pop her arm or pop her butt, nothing like that. Majesty, as she's gotten older, I haven't had to do it. But when she was younger, there were like very few occasions where I had to, or her mom had to. Um, but for the most part, they were good kids, so they never really like misbehave publicly or like around anybody else. They never really misbehaved. It was just like little tweaks that needed to be fixed, and like the way they said things or the way they answered adults or the way they would like say something after they were being told to do something. Like their responses sometimes would be considered like smart at the mouth, and that would just be like a verbal correction.
Mhm.
Um, but with physical discipline, I know a lot of people, like for instance, a lot of people aren't. Well, let me say this: when I grew up as a kid, I seen a couple of my friends take physical beatings that some would consider borderline abuse. And I don't know where you would draw the line. I don't know where some people would draw the line between discipline and abuse. But I remember there was an instance where back when I lived in DC, there was a friend that lived around the corner from me, and he and I used to hang out pretty often. Uh, I pretty much knew his entire family, and there was an instance where we walked into his house, and I think he was supposed to take a younger sibling somewhere or walk them somewhere, and he didn't do it. So his mom was just like waiting behind the door with those little dirt devil handheld vacuums. And the second he like walked through the door, she just whacked him like in the back of the head with like the dirt
Oh my God.
handheld vacuum. And me seeing that like as a kid, that was just like, oh shit, like
That's a little excessive.
yeah, that's like excessive. Or like, what's your opinion when like you ever have you ever heard like older people say like, yeah, we got beat with like extension cords and we got beat with like thick leather belts until we had welts on us. And would you
Yeah,
consider?
I mean, I've gotten beat as a child. I've been hit with a belt. I've been hit with a wooden paddle. I've been hit with a hand. Um, it's like you said, what do you consider abuse and what do you consider like just being strict? Because I know people who like like I know people who would consider just like yelling at your child like that's too far. Like, and I see TV nowadays, and I see like I'll watch a show or whatever, and like the dad will just like scream or yell at their child, and then it's like they make it off as if it's like the worst thing ever. Like, oh my God, how can you do that to your child? I'm like,
Yeah,
really? Like, so some people would probably just even see screaming at somebody as child abuse, or someone would see hitting your children at all as abuse. So it's like you said, like, where is the line? Um,
right.
because the other thing that I notice is, I don't know, maybe if it's not something that you would do in public, then maybe it's past that line.
Yeah, consider.
You know, like if you'll say, if you smack, if you're okay, like, but at the same time, it's also embarrassing. You don't want to discipline your child in public, you know. But like, I don't know. I guess like, I don't know, if you smack your child in the face like at home, but you won't do it around other people, you know, maybe that's telling you that means that you know that you shouldn't be doing that. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, definitely like spankings, you know, like not as like, you know, it's gonna happen. But like you said, it's like, just where do you draw the line, you know? That's something I'm just gonna have to figure out the hard way, but I'm gonna try my best to kind of like be on the other end, like the lower end of it.
Yeah.
And then just maybe see how it goes. And then maybe, you know, if this doesn't work, then maybe do it a little, you know, ramp it up a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. It's still something I've really been thinking about. I still don't fully know how I think about it, because the way I was raised, a lot of other people I consider normal, but when other people see or listen to how I was raised, think it was not normal. And I didn't realize that until I got older. Like, I just always thought, that's where I talked about, like with Alejandro, like with my wife. Like, I always thought like things, I was gonna raise my, like, discipline my son the way I was disciplined. But she was like, no, that's not okay. And I'm like, are you serious? This is like, I thought this is just normal. This is how you discipline your child. And when I see other people and hear other people talking about like how certain things are like abuse and stuff like that, or like, I'm like, are you serious? Like,
this happened to
bro,
me.
like like that's how that's how I was raised. I never thought I was being abused, you know. Or when people talk about being screamed at like as absolutely horrible, I'm like, bro, if I didn't get hit, then that was great, you know. Like, oh, you're just gonna, yeah, like, oh, you're just gonna tell me how disappointed you are and raise your voice just a little bit. Yeah, I'll take that. Like, I was to the point where it's like, some people be like, see, man, the worst thing ever is just being told that my dad is, or my mom is disappointed in me. I'm like, bro, I didn't give a shit if my dad or mom said, like, I didn't give a shit if they said, oh, they were disappointed in me. If they were like, son, I'm very disappointed in you, I'm like, that's it? I ain't going to get hit? Like, yeah, okay, all right, you disappointed me. All right, I'm disappointed in myself. That's it. Yeah, let's go. Let's, you know,
let's move on now. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just because I'm questioning a lot of things about like how I was disciplined, just because I always thought that was just normal. And for a lot of people, it is normal, but for other people, it's not normal. It's just like, you know, that line of like, what do people consider, like, what is too far? Like, I never thought I was being abused or anything like that, but I definitely would say that there's a lot of things that were done to me that I know for a fact I don't want to do to my son. You know, I know there's a lot of things that my dad did that I agree with, that I want to do, and there's a lot of things that my dad did that I absolutely don't agree with and that I don't want to do. So yeah,
because, you know, if you ever hear people have, like, if you ever overhear certain conversations around certain groups of people, especially when cases like domestic violence pop up, and then some people may link like physical discipline to being a cause or the source of somebody being a domestic abuser or a woman beater or a male beater. They may link those two hand in hand, because they may say that the line between physical discipline and abuse was blurred. Me personally, growing up, I for the most part was a pretty average kid, I would say. Like, I had my fair share of beatings, more so from my dad than my mom. My mom would probably say, oh, you didn't get beat that much. And I'm like, because my dad mostly took his belt off and, you know what I'm saying, disciplined me and abused me. He didn't like go all out. My mom wasn't a fan of like those excessive like belt whippings. It was just usually like a good 2 or 3 taps with the belt. And that was it. She didn't like that whole going in a circle, bow, 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 whooping the kid over and over and over again. That was kind of toeing the line between like abuse and discipline, I guess, in her eyes. So, as far as like this physical discipline, uh, I got beat with a belt by my dad, and
Me too.
that was that. Like I said, it was just love. It was just tough love. I turned out all right. You know, I don't have any criminal records. I'm not beating on women. I'm not. There's nothing from my
Yes, same.
childhood. There's nothing from my childhood in terms of discipline that resulted in me being some type of terrible person or some type of like, you know, person who takes his childhood trauma out on other people. Like I'm fine. My parents were disciplined. They turned out fine. Like
Mm-hmm.
um, public discipline though. I'm gonna be. I've seen kids, man, where like we've been out in public and I've seen kids that just make me want to like discipline them for the parents. Like,
Oh my God, yeah.
like you little shit. Get like,
Right, yeah.
you
Like, there's been times where, because my first two jobs were fast food. My first job was Taco Bell. My second job was Chick-fil-A. And let me tell you, nothing pissed me off more than seeing kids running around, throwing food everywhere while their parents just sitting there on their phone, not giving a shit.
like,
I'm like,
a fuck.
like they don't give a fuck. Like I've literally seen kids standing on tables throwing food around, and their parents are just sitting there with a phone, like on their phone. Like they didn't give a shit. Like the other thing is like I feel like no one even taught these kids how to eat properly. Like just like I was at least taught like I'm not saying you're at fast food at Taco Bell and you have to have perfect table manners, you know, elbows off the table or whatever. But like I would have at least expected that they taught them how to eat properly. I don't understand. Like these kids would get more of their food under the table than they would in their mouth. Like it just feels it just like when I see I'm against some certain physical disciplines, but at the same time I'm totally against no discipline at all.
Yeah.
Like when your kids are running around screaming inside a place, making a one like the other okay, look, like I was for 4th of July, I was with family out in the and we were at a park. It was a park with a beach, and we were swimming in the beach. And there was this one little kid, and I don't know if it was his parents weren't watching him, I guess, but like his like older brother or something was with him, and like this kid's just running around, literally bullying my little cousin, like flipping him off. Like this is like probably some 8-year-old kid, and he's like flipping like him off, and he's got like this big like you know those big tubes where like you fill it with water and then you push it and then the water spurts out, but it can have some pretty good pressure, you know, and he's like walking by literally like right here and just sprays into my little cousin's face like hard, like just and just being a little shit.
Being a little fucker.
Just being a little shit. And then and then he slapped him in the face. Like he slapped my little cousin in the face. Yeah. He slapped my little cousin in the face. And when my little cousin told on him, this little shit had the balls to go and telling his dad and say that my cousin was the one bullying him. I'm like, and I know for a fact because I watched it. They came and told me. They showed me which kid it was. I went into the water with them, but kind of from a distance, and I saw the kid doing it. So I know they weren't lying because I watched that kid doing it. It's just that as soon as I got there and I watched him do it, he got out of the water and then his family left. So like I was about to go say something to his parents, like not to be not yell at them, but just to let him know, your little kid has just been an absolute bully to my little cousins, and like.
Yeah, man, because kids will try to weasel their way out of discipline. Like you said, they'll lie just to cover their own asses and throw the next. It's just what kids do. But yeah, man, I've been to the playground and I've seen kids where their parents is like, "Oh, it's time to go," and the kid would throw like a whole temper tantrum, and they'll tell the parent like, "I'm not going. I'm staying here. Get off me. No." Like screaming at the top of their lungs to the point where you have no choice but to look and wonder, like, what the fuck is going on? Like, get some control over your kid. Like, you look ridiculous right now.
I've always been afraid of like being out with my son and him like not wanting to leave or whatever, and then screaming and people coming over thinking I'm trying to kidnap him or something like that. Like I remember because I had never really been around kids my whole life, and when I first met Alejandra, like her little brother, he was like maybe he was like four, like 3 or 4 at the time, and like they were like having like I was babysitting for them, and I'm like I've never babysat my whole life. I've never been around kids my whole life, so I don't know what to do. So let me take him to the park, and we're at the park for a good bit, and then it's like he hits his head and he starts crying, and like people are looking at me and like, is he okay? Like, what happened? And I'm like, great, now they're gonna think I'm like hitting him or something like that. Like, no, he's okay. He just hit his head. And then I'm like, when I'm like, okay, it's time to go, he's sitting here fighting me. And like, I literally have to like, not literally drag him, but like, I'm holding his hand, trying to take him to the car, and he's just fighting me the whole way, crying because he doesn't want to go. And like, I feel people are looking at me. Like, I'm like, I hope that, no one tries to say like, is this your son or whatever? Like I'm just babysitting. And then I take him to Chick-fil-A so that he can eat. And then what happens when I bring him back to his parents? His parents say, "Did you eat? Did John feed you?" He goes, "No, John didn't feed me." I'm like, "We just went to Chick-fil-A. We just went to Chick-fil-A." Like
That's the time.
Yeah.
If you could go back in time, you should have like got the receipt and then flicked the receipt and just
Yeah. I'm like, look, we ate. Like, not only did we eat, he sat there and played for like a good 30 minutes to an hour in the little jungle gym that was in there.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just, people are going to parent how they're going to parent, but it's like you gotta have control over your kid, man. You gotta.
Yeah, and it's worse when it's like not your kid, but you're responsible for them.
Yeah.
Because it's like there's a limit to what you can do. It's like it's not like I can yell at I'm babysitting him, and he's like, we weren't married at the time, so he's like, it's my girlfriend's little brother. So it's like I can't yell at him, I can't discipline him, I can't hit him or any way. The only thing I can do is call his mom or call his sister or whatever. And that was the only thing I did. I had to call Alejandra, and Alejandra was like scolding him over the phone. Then he would listen. Like he knew that I wouldn't do anything. He knew I couldn't do anything, and he took advantage of it.
Kids know, kids know who they can get over and who they can't get over on. And it's like when it's not your kid, like you said, when it's not your kid, you have to walk on eggshells because like you said, there's limited things you can do in terms of like discipline. Like, and it's sad that it's like that because people nowadays, as parents, are like very, 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 very sensitive and being told on how to parent, if that makes sense. Like,
no, yeah, like don't tell me how to raise my kid. Kind of stuff.
Like, it's like I choose. As my kid, I do what I want with my kid. That type of attitude, and it's like growing up. Or back when I was a kid, or my brother and my sister was a kid, my mom and my dad would tell me like things were different in the terms of like neighbors and teachers and almost complete strangers, not complete strangers, but people that were in your everyday life. They were allowed to discipline your kid. Like my mom used to say, my sister had did something that she wasn't supposed to do, and the neighbor had saw it, and the neighbor had permission. The neighbor was allowed to physically discipline my sister when she was a kid, because it was just the whole concept of neighbors looking out for each other, looking out for their kids, and being concerned about the well-being of the kid, and making sure the kid wasn't putting themselves in harm, just doing what kids do.
Yeah.
But nowadays, people are like sensitive. Like people are very, very like protective over their kids, and I get it. But I don't get it because things have changed, and people are. You never really know what people's intentions are these days, especially when it comes to kids that aren't theirs. You hear it all the time on the news, like babysitters like abusing kids and killing kids. I can't watch that shit, but you hear about it. So
yeah, there was I don't know if you heard about it, but a Baltimore City cop just got arrested because he strangled his 15-year-old stepson and hid his body inside of a wall in the hole, a hole in the wall.
See, yeah, shit like that, man. Like you never.
Like, you gotta be careful. Like, your own, like your own husband, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Even like step parents, man. Like you hear, like you said, a guy murders his own stepson and hit the body in the wall, or the stepmom gets mad at the dad and takes it out on the kids, and it's just a fucked up world, man.
You really gotta be careful.
Um, and even like in the form of discipline, like kind of goes hand in hand with this. Um, Raising or growing up as a man when you're disciplined, and the natural reaction, of course, is to cry. I don't know if you ever been told, and it's like when you're being disciplined and you cry, and they're like, "Stop crying, or I'll give you something to cry about."
Yep.
Or dad ever like told you like, "Suck it up," blah blah blah. I'll make it even worse. That do you think like being told to suppress those emotions, like men aren't supposed to cry when they feel pain, or men aren't supposed to cry or show, tears are a sign of weakness, basically.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. Like, that's where I feel like that's the toxic masculinity kind of, coming into play. Like, men cry, like men cry. Like, to grow up telling men to like suppress their emotions and not to cry, like that causes like, like a lot of emotional issues growing up, like when you learn and you're told your whole life like you're not allowed to express yourself or how you feel because you're a man and you have to suck it up. It's like, no, I don't agree with that, because you need to be able to express yourself. I feel like an important part of raising a child, boy or girl, is teaching them how to handle their emotions, not to suppress them.
Yeah.
Treating them how to react to their emotions. Like, that's how I feel. Like, yeah,
She's teaching them how to express themselves
in a healthy way.
Yeah, in a healthy way, without having to feel like they have to lash out in order to express themselves. Like they can do it in a controlled and organized way. And I think that being told to suppress your emotions, it definitely affects your adult life, like communication wise. You might bottle everything up, keep it to yourself. You won't communicate. You won't open up. You won't talk about issues going on with yourself to anyone else because you feel like you just kind of want to deal with it yourself. And
yeah,
if you show that weakness of let me express myself, then you feel vulnerable. And I don't know, it's just like you said, toxic masculinity. And I don't know, I've shed a few tears in my life. Some were heavy tears, some were just like little,
me too.
yeah. I think we have to get out of that toxic mindset of what men aren't allowed to do and just be open-minded to, a whole new wavelength of like just letting humans be humans and letting people be people. And however people choose to express themselves, just let it be. Like, discipline and emotions, those are two things I say go hand in hand because you could feel pissed off. And however you're feeling, whether or not you know it, you channel that through your actions. And you could take it out on a kid. Like you could have a bad day at work. You could be stressed out about something. And when it comes time to discipline your kid, whether you're aware of it or not, you're channeling your emotions through your actions when it comes to discipline. It could be the tone of your voice. It could be the force you put behind physical discipline. And that's where it could blur the line again between discipline and abuse.
Yeah.
But man, we're towing up on a 20-second mark. And before we bring this to a close, I want to end this on a interesting note.
Yeah.
Before you shoot me, when you see me on Saturday. I'm about to actually watch Loki.
Now, are you 2 episodes behind?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're gonna like it.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna end the discussion of discipline and emotions. I've been Ronell Rashid. This has been Mr. John Richter. Stick around because the next time on episode 3, we're gonna be having some special guests with us. Last time we actually tried to shoot the Dads Talk Shit podcast with special guests. My camera fucking pooped out on us. So
Yeah.
we weren't able to do it. But we're gonna have a square table discussion with some very special guests.
Square table.
Square table. Instead of round table discussion, we're gonna have a square table discussion.
Yeah, we had a round table with corners.
A round table with corners, which makes it a triangle. So
triangle table discussion.
There we go.